Hello, and welcome to our webinar on the business of acupuncture. Today's webinar is about the Veterans Administration reimbursement of licensing or certification exams. This webinar has an audio and a video component. If you cannot hear or see the presentation, please refer back to your email and log in again. In the course of this webinar, you will not be able to speak to the presenter. If you have any questions, please submit them through the webinar portal, and all questions will be addressed at the end of the webinar. The webinar will be recorded, and it will not be edited. If there's something you see or hear and you want to go back to it, it'll be kept in its original form, and you can review that in the recording. This webinar is only for informational purposes, and it does not constitute legal advice. If you have any questions about the application of the information contained in this webinar to your personal circumstances, please seek the advice of a qualified attorney or other professional. I am Mark Guymond. I will be your presenter today. Some of the work that we've done recently for the profession of acupuncture was the 2013 legislative summary. This document was a review of all of the legislation that was introduced in 2013 and its status after introduction. And we also provided the profession and the industry with the state law summary. This is an extremely useful tool for acupuncture students who may be studying in one state and thinking about practicing in another, or a practitioner who is in one state and might want to move to another state or practice in another state. The state law summary distills down all of these state laws and analyzes all the states plus the District of Columbia in terms of the elements of the law. What is the definition of acupuncture? What is the scope of practice? Restrictions, prohibitions, does it require a license, how to get the license, education requirements, and things such as where on the web to get a copy of the license, the URL. So we've tried to make it as easy as possible for everybody to go out and get the most authoritative information that they can about practicing in other states. So what is the purpose of the webinar series? We're doing several productions, several webinars on different subjects. The idea behind this webinar series is there is the practice of acupuncture. That is the question of review, diagnosis, needling, evaluation, all of that. That is the practice of acupuncture. Surrounding that practice is the business of acupuncture. And this is one of the things that I term differently, and we look at the industry of acupuncture, and that is the vendors, that is the providers, that is the insurance, that is the educators, that is the certifiers, those are the practitioners, those are the regulators, that is everything. And then there's the practice of acupuncture, which is the actual work. But this series is looking at the business of acupuncture. What is it that is surrounding your practice that you need to be concerned with? What are the benefits? What are the gold mines and what are the landmines in terms of the operations of the practice? So today's webinar is going to focus on what you can get through the Department of Veterans Affairs. The VA will cover the cost of a license or certification test for certain qualified persons. I'll give you a moment here to review this. These are the folks that are authorized to receive VA reimbursement for this. I'll be right back with you. Okay, so these are the folks that have coverage through the VA. So the question then comes to be, what is covered exactly? Well, let's go to the definition and review that for a moment. Certification is what you get by taking a specific test for a field of employment, not a certificate you receive for completing training. Now, there's an important distinction in that. This is not about the education that you receive, but those processes that you engage in for the certification of your knowledge. This would be certification exams, licensing exams, all of those different things. But it does not cover the education specifically. That is a completely different benefit. This is only looking at what is, once you've gone through the education point, what is the barrier between there and your actual employment? What are the things that you need to do in terms of licensing and certification? And that's what we're talking about specifically. VA reimbursement does not cover registration fees, preparation guides, or processing fees. If you have questions about what tests are or are not approved, you can go directly to this URL and look it up on the internet. And the VA has a list of tests that are approved or not approved. I'll give you a moment to look at that. If you didn't have time to write that down, you can always come back to the recording of the webinar and review it. I'll give you one more moment. Okay. So then, if you're qualified and you're looking for the certification or the licensing, how much can you receive for that? Maximum reimbursement is $2,000 a test, but it's going to depend on what you're qualified to receive. If you take a test and did not pass it, you can receive benefits to retake the test. If you have to recertify a license or renew a license, and there's testing and fees in that, VA benefits may be available for that as well. You are entitled to a certain maximum amount of benefits, so as you go through and use those benefits, they may be used up periodically, and you want to look to your benefits analysis to determine how much you have available and what remains. I think it's important to note, too, that you have to pay the cost of your examination or certification or licensing up front. VA does not give you the cash in hand and then you go. You pay for it up front. After that point, you submit it to the VA and you can seek reimbursement. So, you've taken your test, you paid for it, you want to apply for reimbursement. How does one go about that? Well, according to the VA, you can do all of this. You can provide all of this information in a letter. They recommend also that you attach a copy of the test results or a copy of your license certification. You can go through this a statement, I authorize release of my test information to VA, so on and so forth. While that sounds like a lot of fun, you can also just fill out the form. There's an application for reimbursement of licensing or certification test fees directly through VA. It's at the URL down at the bottom. I'll give you a moment to copy that. You can always come back to it, of course, in the recording of this webinar. Okay, hopefully that was enough time for everybody. So if you have any problems, where can you go for help? You can go to the VA's website and click on question and find answers, and that might help you. You can also call them directly at the phone number listed at the bottom of the screen, and they may be able to assist you with that as well. This was a short webinar. Hopefully it was beneficial to those of you who are qualified for VA reimbursement, and hopefully this was helpful. I'm going to hold here for a moment. If anybody has any questions, please submit them now through the portal on your webinar, and I'll wait to receive those. Okay, we haven't had any questions now. Should you have any questions later, feel free to submit them to us at info@nationalpolicygroup.com, and we'll try to help you in any way we can. Thank you for joining us for this webinar.